Okay, we're going to talk about something called Indian English. There's British English, there's South African English, there's American English, there's Canadian English, and there's Indian English. The Oxford Companion to the English Language has noted some typical features of mid-level Indian English syntax. Interrogative constructions without subject auxiliary inversion. As in, what you would like to buy, why we should do this. Standard English syntax calls for inversion. Why should we do this? And so on. Often ignored or just not respected in Indian English. Definite article often used as if the conventions have been reversed. What's the definite article? The. And is the indefinite.
Oh, sorry about that.
The indefinite article is and, the definite article is the, and as if the convention have been reversed, it is the nature's way. For offices closed today, where you wouldn't expect to see a the, it shows up where you ought to have one. I'm going to office.
I've heard it's the mercy of the Krishna.
It is the mercy of the Krishna, or the mercy of the God.
Yeah.
So, because in Hindi you don't have definite or indefinite articles. Bhagavan ka kripa hai. There's no a or the. But English has them. And therefore English speakers, Indian English speakers who want to get it right have to learn them. Stated verbs given progressive forms. Leela is having 2 books. You must be knowing my cousin brother Mohan. English, standard non-Indian English calls for ordinary present tense. Leela has 2 books, you must know my cousin brother Mohan. But in English, in Indian English, progressive tense is often used. Reduplication used for emphasis and to indicate a distributive meaning. I bought some small things. Or why don't you give them one piece of cake? Again, this is perfectly good Hindi syntax. Ek ek gulab jamun. So in Hindi you do it, in English you don't. Yes and no as question tags. He is coming, yes? She was helping you, no? Mohan mera dost hai, huh? So, you know, it's a question, it's a legitimate thing to do in Hindi. It is done in English, but not to the extent that in Indian English has.
Sorry, are we talking about spoken?
We're talking about?
Spoken, not written.
Well, spoken, you find this written also. But this would be spoken. He is coming, yes.
So would that be accepted in a university level, though?
Would it be?
In India?
Would it be accepted as a university?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, all this is accepted at university level.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it is the God's will only. That's perfectly good Indian English at a university level in a lot of universities. But it's not to the standard. 7. Isn't it? As a generalized question tag. They are coming tomorrow, isn't it? Kalangena. But it's not English. Outside of India. I hear it in Bhagavatam. In fact, there's a young scholar in America who wrote a scholarly journal article about Kuru English. What she did was she attended the Los Angeles Temple and listened to the various lectures and did some questionnaires and found out that the more that the speaker used English that conformed to Prabhupada's syntax, the more the class was perceived as being a good class. So if they said something like why they should do like that, for example, that was like a plus point to the Los Angeles devotee audience. It indicated that there was a higher degree of authority and
across all demographics.
well, this was just the Los Angeles demo,
Oh.
people who attended the class. The scholar took a poll and found that consistently the classes judged better with those that had a higher proportion of Indian English.
Okay, interesting.
Interesting phenomenon. And we hear it in class, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Isn't it? Yeah.
The problem with that, of course, is that there's nothing for it to refer to.
Right.
You can say, this is a problem, isn't it?
Yeah.
And that's legitimate because the it has a problem to refer to.
They are coming tomorrow, aren't they? Like that?
They're coming tomorrow, aren't they? But they're coming tomorrow, isn't it?
No, it's not referring to any.
There's no
It's
antecedent for the pronoun, but it's perfectly good Indian English. Reflexive pronouns and only used for emphasis. It was God's order itself. It was God's own order. Well, that means it was God's own order. Or they live like that only. Or they're living like that only. That use of only is typical of the English. Present perfect rather than simple past. I have bought the book yesterday. These are all standard features of Indian English. And if you want to be a serious editor and you're working with people who write in Indian English, then you should know the standards. I don't teach them. Not part of this course really, but there are books that should help you. I guess ESL books, English as a second language, or I don't really know where to tell you to start looking. But if somebody finds something, you can tell the rest of the class. But it does need work. A well-edited English publication in India will not do these things.
They most likely use British English, or
Excuse me?
would they use British English?
Yeah, British English is sort of the standard around here. But actually Indian English has developed its own conventions influenced by local languages. Hey, huh? So you want to pay. Now, I should say that India has some of the best writers in the world. There was recently a huge rage of a whole wave of Indian authors published very successfully by big New York firms. So they were like, everyone was looking for the next Indian author. You have V.S. Naipaul, you have Arundhati Roy, you have many who are astonishingly good in their use of English. But the sort of everyday businessman's English that you hear will often have these features. And of course, Prabhupada's English had many of these features, which the editors attend to. There are also some standard phrases in Indian English, like do the needful, which originated in Britain, died out there, but it meanwhile gone to India. Now it's enjoying a comeback in Britain.
Oh, wow.
It's come back from India to Britain. Batchmates, that's another standard Indian English phrase. We would say classmates. Batchmates is standard here. Anything else?
because kids mama and I haven't forbidden.
Microphone.
I have a BA in linguistics.
You have a BA in linguistics?
Yeah, in the UK, and there's just a movement again, sort of like prescriptive language.
Yeah, well,
And then
there's,
they say, oh, you should maintain those features because it's all respect to their sort of way of communicating. But then,
this is a standard or a long-running feud between lexicographers, the prescriptivists and the descriptivists. There are dictionaries that are prescriptive, there are dictionaries that are descriptive. Prescriptives say, this is the right way, this is the wrong way. And the descriptivists say, this is what we find out there.
yeah.
So there's, and a lot of some very prominent dictionaries, especially Merriam-Webster, have gone very descriptivist, almost aggressively descriptivist.
Like every day they add a new word to their website or something like that.
Not just that, but ways of using words that are usually frowned upon become just acceptable because that's what people do.
Ain't.
And fair enough, that's how language develops. People take words and do things with them, and after a while they become standard. So the descriptivists have their point. On the other side, people may want to know what educated people, what's expected in educated, well-edited prose, and that's where the prescriptivists come in. We were talking about cutting words. We were talking about cutting, first of all, cutting a whole piece, cutting chapters, cutting pages, cutting sentences and paragraphs, down to cutting words. There's quite a famous little entry in Strunk and White called "Omit Needless Words," often quoted because it's a sterling example of what it talks about. Vigorous writing is concise. A sentence should contain no unnecessary words. A paragraph, no unnecessary sentences. For the same reason that a drawing should have no unnecessary lines, and a machine, no unnecessary parts. This requires not that the writer make all sentences short or avoid all detail and treat subjects only in outline, but that every word tell. That's Mr. Strunk's admirable essay on avoiding needless words. Some features, I sit down too long, I get old. There's, yes, come in. Sneak in, go ahead.
Back this week.
Special privileges to the organizers. There are certain ways to use words needlessly that stand out. One is tautology, which is basically saying the same thing twice. There's a very good book called, I referred to it yesterday, The Complete Stylist, Sheridan Baker. The more common form of it available, that was the original book. It's available in a somewhat cut down version called The Practical Stylist. Sheridan Baker. Excellent book, either one. He gives the example, someone writes, every seat in the house was full to capacity. Every seat in the house was full to capacity. That's not exactly redundancy, but that's or tautology. That's just going overboard. The only way every seat would be filled would be to capacity, or any seat would be filled. But if you said something like, all the Americans were US citizens, that's a first-class tautology. You don't really need to say. Then there's pleonasm, using extra words to say something. Prolixity means mentioning what's not worth mentioning. Circumlocution, going around in circles and saying things the long way. Irrelevancies, tangents, digressions, side topics, inconsequence, some stuff that just doesn't matter. And obviousness. Your readers really don't need you to state what's obvious. They already know what's obvious. Okay. I'm going to give you some more examples. Ready? Oh, yes. Excess modifiers should be cut. Modifiers, what are modifiers? What parts of speech are modifiers? Adjectives. Give me one more. Adverbs. They're your modifiers. She said, sadly. These are adverbs, verbs that modify, words that modify verbs. Or, yeah. Then adjectives. You know what adjectives are. Strong writing uses nouns and verbs. Those are your strong words. You're better off choosing the right verb than the almost right verb modified with an adverb. So look for those adjectives, look for those adverbs, look for all those modifiers, and see whether you can do without them. The next category of words to be... Oh, Mark Twain? Yes? Mark Twain famously said, when you see an adjective, kill it. Yes?
I was thinking the strong writing uses only nouns and verbs.
Excuse me?
Strong writing uses only nouns and verbs.
Not only nouns and verbs. It's not that we're going to banish adjectives and adverbs from the language. But those are your power words, your nouns, your verbs. Sometimes an adjective can be powerful. Sometimes it can add strength or color, but they're overused, overdependence or overuse will not help. Write with nouns and verbs, not with adjectives and adverbs. The adjective hasn't been built that can pull a weak or inaccurate noun out of a tight place. This is not to disparage adjectives and adverbs. They are indispensable parts of speech. Occasionally, they surprise us with their power, as in, up the airy mountain, down the rushy glen, we dare not go hunting for fear of little men. The nouns mountain and glen are accurate enough, but had the mountain not become airy, the glen rushy, William Allingham might never have gotten off the ground with his poem. In general, however, it is nouns and verbs, not their assistants, that give good writing its toughness and color. Claro? Okay. We come next to a favorite of mine. I believe we do. There they are. Weasel words. You know, weasel is always trying to get into go this way and that way. Get around something, get into spaces. So these are weasel words. They hedge, they equivocate, they help you avoid commitment. Rather, almost, somewhat, apparently, reasonably, conceivably, relatively, fairly, kind of, pretty much said to be, could be considered. Don't be a coward.
Speaking the affirmative.
Be definite. Come out and say that he's a creep. Not rather, almost, or seemingly, or apparently, or somewhat, or that the situation was somewhat dangerous, seemingly precarious.
Rather dodgy, like the English would say.
Excuse me?
Rather dodgy.
Rather dodgy.
Rather dodgy. Dodgy is good enough.
Yeah,
But- and how
rather.
how much more dodgy or less dodgy is rather dodgy?
Some
All these words waste space, and worse, they make you like dishwater, just kind of neither here nor there. Now, that's not to say that you should be rash. Qualifiers do have their place. Something may be apparent, but not yet determined. In scientific writing and so on, you want to be careful and not overcommit. But especially in academic writing, but in all sorts of writing, we find an overabundance of qualifiers which drain the force from what's written. Cut weasel words. Look for words that don't add anything, where you don't need to equivocate, where you should just come out and say it. Cut, 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 cut.
Some authors, I've heard that, they may feel, they're more of the feeling type of writers that say, oh, well, this words, this combination of words, the way that they feel is important to them.
Well, that's true. The way that the words feel matters. Their rhythm, not meter, which belongs to poetry, but good writing has a rhythm to it. And there are places where the sentence just doesn't feel right. And especially if you're an experienced writer, you start to feel when it's right and feel when it's not right. But even as a beginner, you may have a feeling about something without knowing why. But just hold on to weasel words and qualifiers and adverbs and adjectives because maybe they feel better because you're a coward and you feel safer hiding behind these things. So we don't just go by feelings. There's, okay, here it is, in fact. Again, struck in white, sterling. Rather, very, little, pretty. These are the leeches that infest the pond of prose, sucking the blood of words. You know what a leech is? The constant use of the adjective little, except to indicate size, is particularly debilitating. We should all try to do a little better. We should all be very watchful of this rule, for it is a rather important one, and we are pretty sure to violate it now and then. Okay, weasel words. Another great candidate for cutting is very. What is the difference between difficult and very difficult? What are you telling your reader when you say that something is very difficult?
It's maybe
Impossible.
So you use impossible.
If it's impossible, why not say impossible? Hmm?
Maybe one can find a better word than very.
Maybe one can find a better word than very, or than difficult.
One not difficult.
Hmm?
A word that it's, indicates.
How difficult it is.
It's more difficult, but I don't want to put more either.
Yeah, you see, you're just looking for another qualifier.
That's true.
The experience was very difficult. Why not say, for example, excruciating?
Yes, that's what I was trying to do. Find a better word than difficult.
Find a better word than difficult. Rather than take a noun or an adjective or what have you, and then modify it with a qualifier. Find the right word to begin with. Find the word that says what you want to say. Because very really doesn't do very much. The temple is very far from the Goshala. Well, or very near the Goshala. What does that tell you? It doesn't tell you anything.
No.
You could say it's near the Goshala. Very near doesn't tell you anything more. You said it was a furlong, okay, I could go with that.
Yeah.
But just very, very this, very that, very blissful. What's the difference between blissful and very blissful? You look blissful, you look very blissful. Very can very often just be cut. In fact, very, very often be cut. In really juvenile writing, you'll see very, very. And in best edited prose, you'll find hardly a very.
Or so very.
Hmm?
So very.
So very.
So very.
I think some like word, a sentence like it's kind of, it's a lack of commitment to the statement, but
Yeah.
now everyone is using this kind of.
Kind of,
Yeah.
pretty
You
much.
see in lectures, it's just kind of like,
Well, sure.
Sorry.
It's spoken when we speak, we do these things. But even the best speakers will train themselves to cut back or hold back on these veries and kind ofs and sort ofs and pretty much, and come out with it. You see really powerful speakers.
yeah.
You know, the Kennedy's address didn't talk about pretty much. Martin Luther King didn't talk about how the black people are pretty much oppressed. There's a well-known writer of earlier times for the New Yorker magazine, James Thurber, who wrote that wherever you see very, wherever you see very, change it to damn.
And then delete it. Very good.
And then delete it. Now there is a effective use of very, as in the very soul of confidentiality. That's a different sort of very than this weak intensifier. Another one. There is. There is another sign of wordiness, as in, let's see. There is another obstacle that stands in the way of the proposals being approved by the GBC.
Get rid of the
You don't even need it.
another obstacle stands
Yeah, another obstacle stands
in the way
In the way of the proposals being approved by the GBC. How many words do we have? 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 17 words. If you get rid of there is and that, you save 3 out of 17.
Is proposals is singular? It's only
It's
one,
singular,
one
but
proposal.
it's possessive,
Possessive, being approved.
which is another topic.
Yeah.
Can we shorten this still further while we're at it?
Of the proposals of the in the way,
Hmm?
in the way,
Another
In the way.
in the way
in the way.
can be cut.
Stands in the way. Yeah? So what do you want to do?
Another
Get your little pens out and see what you can come up with. Off the top of my head, I've got it in 9 words. Maybe you can do fewer. Okay.
Proposals being approved by the GBC.
The proposal
Proposals being approved by the GBC have obstacles.
Proposal being accepted by the GBC, being approved by the GBC has obstacles.
Proposal has obstacles being
The proposal being approved, okay, you do need a possessive there. It's being approved. It's not it being approved, but it's being approved. That's a whole separate discussion. But okay, the proposals being approved by the GBC has obstacles. Okay.
Another obstacle prevents the GBC's approval of the proposal.
Another obstacle
Prevents the GBC's approval of the proposal.
Another obstacle prevents the GBC's approval of the proposal. Pretty good. Yes.
GBC cannot approve the proposal because of another obstacle.
GBC cannot approve, okay? You recast the sentence entirely. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with recasting a sentence. Perfectly respectable thing. It's one of the things editors do, and you're entitled to look at a sentence and say, start again. So, give it to me again.
GBC cannot approve the proposal because of another obstacle.
GBC cannot approve the proposal because of another obstacle.
The GBC faces another obstacle to the proposal. The GBC faces another obstacle to the proposal.
The GBC faces another obstacle to the proposal. Yeah, it sounds like the GBC really wants to accept it, though. Right? We're hoping that the thing will go through, and the GBC is like, we don't know about that. Now it's like the GBC that wants to pass it. But there's something standing in their way. Yes?
Another obstacle to the proposal's approvement by the GBC.
Another obstacles
To the proposal's approvement by the GBC.
is
Yeah, just. No, I didn't make it.
the sentence still has a way to go. That's not a legitimate way to cut the number of words to end the sentence in the middle. Not this time, anyway. Sometimes. Anyone else?
Another requirement for the proposals to be approved by the GBC.
Okay, another requirement
For the proposals to be approved by the GBC.
for the proposal to be approved by the GBC. Anyone else? Yeah? Okay, here's what I thought of. Okay, come back here. Yeah. thought of it when I did the course, but okay, I thought of it again. Another obstacle keeps the GBC from approving the proposal.
So it doesn't have to be possessive.
Hmm?
So you can recast it, doesn't have to be possessive.
I didn't really recast it. I looked at it and said, I don't need there it is.
Yeah.
So another obstacle stands in the way of the proposals being approved by the GBC. I saved 3 words. Then stands in the way of stands in the way of 5 words to say what happened. And then I've got this sort of passive construction, being approved by. So I just activated the whole thing and said, another obstacle, that's the subject. Keeps is my 1-word verb. The GBC, my object, from approving the proposal.
Can you just ask about what's about due to? Is it also should be not used?
You
Because,
too?
Due to.
GBC?
Due to.
Due to.
Due to.
I did such sentences. GBC cannot approve proposal due to another obstacle. 8 words. Only 8. GBC cannot approve proposal due to another obstacle.
Okay, you beat me by 1.
Good.
Of course, my sentence comes in positive form,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So,
It's negative.
so I'm going to take at least a half point back. But good, thank you, yes.
I just wonder if GBC can be used without the
Loud, give her the microphone. The softest voice in the room.
I just wonder if the GBC, like,
Don't
can
ask
use,
about the GDC, just
if it can be used without the in front. Can we just say GBC?
Can you just approve by GBC? In India, you can certainly do that, but
Because it
because
stands for governing
they
body.
don't have to use the "the" at all anywhere, except when it is the nature's will only. But no, you need the GBC. Approved by GBC.
Well, yeah, because
It's
it
an
stands,
explicit.
it stands for governing body commission, so
Yeah. I just wonder if Satyavati Manaji said the in front of the GBC.
Do you need the "the" in front of
Yeah,
the GBC?
yeah.
Yes.
yes.
We need.
When you say keeps it from being approved by governing body commission, only in headline language.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
In headline language, they drop articles and so on. But in normal speech, you'd keep that definite article. The GBC, and of course there are, like ISKCON, you wouldn't say the ISKCON, although in India we would. So that's one of the things style books will tell you when there's an article, when it should be something should be preceded by an article, when
Just like why is ISKCON this as an acronym? Why does it have this different? Because everybody does it naturally.
yeah, exactly. Because
Yeah.
you just say the ISKCON and it's
The
international
Society.
It makes perfect sense, but we don't do it because it's not our style. We could if we wanted to say the ISKCON stands for this, the ISKCON believes that, the members of the ISKCON, and house style, we don't do it. But you could.
Yeah, sometimes
You could say the NATO,
Yeah.
the NATO, National North American Treaty Organization. The NATO, but they don't. They say NATO.
Sometimes I have heard outsiders speak of the ISKCON like it's
Yeah,
someone writes
but
an
then-
article or something.
But then they'll say things like, well, of course, the FDA, the CIA, the this and that. And there, of course, you would say the Food and Drug Administration, the Central Administration. But it still goes this way and that way, according to conventions, which may differ from word to word, just by usage.
And we would find all this in the style book.
Style book.
Yeah.
Especially this thing with definite articles or not. You find them a lot in newspaper style books, but you might find them elsewhere too. Okay. Another way that you can save space and gain strength is by ditching not and putting things in positive form. Rather than saying that something was not unusual, you could say it was common. Rather than saying that something was not particularly interesting, you could say it was boring. It's not
Uninteresting.
Uninteresting. You could also say uninteresting.
You could say uninteresting, but uninteresting, these uns sort of drug, it's in your mind, you have to see interesting, cross out the un.
Yeah.
You have to cross it out because there's an un in front of it, so it comes to the same, not negative. George Orwell gave an example of why he was exasperated with overuse of not and un and negative forms. A not unblack dog was chasing a not unsmall rabbit across a not ungreen field.
A black dog was chasing a small rabbit across a green field. It's double negative.
A black dog was chasing a small rabbit across a green field. It takes you a while to even sort it out. And there are some writers who habitually make everything on and not and so on. Come out and say things positively. We talked about counting words. In the newer versions of Word, you go to review and word count. And I can give you an example, I think. Let's see. I know I can. Let's see what I've got. Yeah. Yes. Here's one. At this time, he expressed his desire that a trust be established for the purpose of renovating the holy places. To get that as it is, I wanted to find out how many words that is. You highlight it. You go to View, Word Count, 21. You can also count your characters that way too. Control U, and you can do the whole document. Let's take some examples. What am I doing here? Let's take that very one. At this time, he expressed his desire that a trust be established for the purpose of renovating these ancient holy places. 21 words. Give it to me short. Yes.
He wants a trust to be established to renovate this ancient holy place.
He wanted a trust to be established. to renovate these ancient holy places. Good.
How many words?
How many words? Yeah, check whatever you've written, give me a count. If you're having trouble, the other way to do it is just go 1, 2, 3.
Yes,
That sounds like a good
it says 159, but I just...
Scared.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just... So it's 12.
12. 12 for 21. Pretty good. Someone else?
Then he desired to establish a trust for renovating these ancient holy places.
Then he
Desired
desired.
to establish a trust for renovating these ancient holy places.
Good. How many words?
12.
Did you miss anything?
I think not.
Any meaning disappear there?
Just the passive is converted to active. So maybe he didn't want to desire. Maybe he didn't want to establish himself. He just no.
Did we lose anything in the meaning there?
I think there.
What? I saw. Then he desired, right?
He said, yeah, he didn't say it.
At this time.
But right, it has to come out. He expressed his desire. So that you saved. We're going to add 2 words to your score. But good. Yes.
He wants a trust established for renovating ancient holy places.
He wanted a trust established for renovating
Holy places. Ancient holy places.
ancient holy places. Did we lose any meaning? How many words?
10.
Renovating.
Now that
10 words.
10 words. 10 for 21. A saving of 50%. More than 50%.
But then a trust
But-
establishment is a possessive.
Did we lose any meaning? Does it say the same thing?
A trust.
I would question these, which you got rid of. But it seems to me that the trust, like Mayapur, or the what Bhaktivedanta Swami Charity Trust in Mayapur, was set up to take care of, preserve, renovate specific holy places. These rather than all. A trust, this becomes important when you're writing documents, legal documents. The purpose of this trust shall be to renovate ancient holy places.
Not every holy place.
These.
Okay, that's within the purpose of the trust. They want something, we have a request from Rome. But if it's specific, so while cutting, you want to make sure that you're not cutting anything essential. You don't want to cut an artery or something while you're doing surgery. Yes?
This time he expressed his desire to establish a trust for renovating these ancient holy places.
Yes.
16 words.
We're all pretty much in the ballpark here. On your sentence, which was just about almost there, I'd say almost ideal. The only thing I saw, read it again.
Actually, I changed it a little.
You changed it.
And it's still 12 words. Can I read?
Go ahead.
He wanted to establish a trust in order to renovate these holy places.
He wanted to establish a trust in order to renovate. Do you need in order?
Does that indicate that he expressed his desire?
Oh yeah, we expressed it again here.
But
There's sometimes, we go back and cut what we cut and cut some more. Okay, I got it down to 15, I got it down to 12. Can I get it down more? And that's what editors do. But then when you're doing it, you have to watch out that you're not cutting something you need.
But
That you're
this,
not cutting out meaning.
But express is very important here. We can exchange it to another word.
Yeah.
Said, he said, he wants.
He said he wanted.
He asked.
That's what I would do, I think. He said he wanted a trust. In your original sentence, you said to be established, and I just would knock that out. He said he wanted a trust established to renovate these ancient holy places.
Can you say he asked?
He requested.
He requested or he asked?
Yeah, he asked that a trust be established. That would work fine.
He desired an establishment of a trust.
He desired the establishment of a trust. But again, what happened to expressed? You're telling about what went on in his mind or his heart, but not anything he communicated. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next one. I think we're doing fine. In addition to the work of renovation, there's also the matter of maintenance of the daily worship. Okay. Yes.
Additional to renovation work, there is maintenance of daily worship.
Say it again.
Additional to renovation works, there is maintenance of daily worship.
How many words?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
10. You say a day. You got a bit of the wordy, the matter of. Say it again.
Additional to renovation works, there is maintenance of daily worship.
Okay. Daily worship. You say a day. Yes.
I got a third one this time. Besides renovation work, we should maintain daily worship.
Besides renovation work, we should maintain the daily worship.
There's the matter of maintenance. It could be ambiguous.
What's the matter?
Well, so it says the matter of maintenance.
As opposed to spirit?
Are we maintaining the facility for maintenance or for worship? Or are we maintaining worship every day at the same time? What are we maintaining? I don't know.
Does the matter really say anything? I don't think the matter tells you, answers any of those questions. Prashanto.
The matter includes renovation as well as the daily worship maintenance.
Okay, you're preserving a lot of the words, but I don't know if the sense is staying the same. The matter of, tell me again.
The matter, we're talking of the matter. The matter includes renovation as well as the daily worship maintenance.
The matter includes renovation,
daily worship maintenance.
daily worship. The matter includes. Okay, so now we've got sort of a, maybe that's what's on the agenda, the matter includes. Okay, we could do it that way. How many words?
8.
Is that really 8?
8, yeah.
10.
I heard more than 8.
8.
Oh, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay. More like that, yes.
The work of renovation includes maintenance of daily worship.
Okay.
8 words.
You agreed with Prashanta that there's a, the one includes the other, that they're not agenda items. Yes.
The matter of maintaining daily worship adds to the renovations work. 11.
Wow, that's a different meaning entirely. Here it's like in addition to means on top of, but now you've got the deity worship adding to the bit. I don't think that's the intended meaning. Although it is shorter. Yes.
Daily worship has to be maintained while the renovation is on.
Deity worship.
Daily worship has to be maintained while the renovation is on.
Okay, that's, and how many words? You should all tell me how many words you have. You're calculating.
11.
11, okay.
Should we end it in on?
what I'm going to, again, I'm going to cut short because I'm seeing, you know, similar solutions and good solutions, and we have more, and I don't want to take everybody's. But I've seen that the work of is eligible for cutting.
Yeah.
The matter of cutting also is questionable. In addition to, sounds like a lot of words there. I thought of, somebody gave me a besides, whoever was that? Besides, yes. Besides took care of all of this. I gave you one word for 3. Besides the work of renovation. I would do besides renovation, we also need to maintain the daily worship. How many words is that? Besides renovation, we also need to maintain the daily worship. That's 10. And each one of them says something.
Can you say should? The renovation should include?
Excuse me?
Can you say the renovation should include the maintenance?
You could say I'm getting a whole party that believes that to speak about what's in and what's out. Any questions?
Can we use along with instead of in addition to? Along with.
Yeah, you can use all sorts of things. It's just a question of whether you're spending more words than you need to, whether you're getting things across in the most straight and effective form. You can say along with, you can say in addition to, you can say besides, you can say apart from. You have lots of alternatives. You know, it's a big language. There's lots you can do.
Wow.
Everybody's his own writer, his or her own writer. So there's always lots of different ways to do something. More than one way to peel a mango. So there's...
I'm excited. I have it in 7 words.
Okay.
Besides renovation, daily worship maintenance is involved.
Besides daily worship,
Besides
renovation,
daily worship
is also involved.
Daily worship maintenance.
Daily worship maintenance is also involved.
No,
how many
also.
words?
Not also.
No, also.
Without also.
Is
It is involved. Besides, yeah, you don't need also. How many words?
7.
7.
I'm really excited.
Okay. Quite good there. Now, one thing I want to warn you against in cutting and shortening is what they call noun pileups. Where you have noun upon noun upon noun. As in, computer equipment maintenance program. Or temple computer equipment maintenance program.
Or a German word.
5 words, every one a noun. Piling up. And serving as adjectives. They're all modifying program, really. Temple, computer, equipment, maintenance, program. Your nouns are starting to pile up. And as they pile up, the reader has the task of sorting them out again. And so you lose strength that way. So you want to watch against. Do you understand what I mean by noun pileups? Okay. So you want to watch out about noun pileups, but good, congratulations, 7. But I might take off a point or 2 to unpile your nouns.
It's only 3 nouns.
Hmm?
I mean, it's only 2 nouns. Daily worship,
Yeah.
maintenance.
Daily, deity, worship, maintenance. 3.
Yeah. Little 5.
I think I said to maintain the deity worship, which you don't have to sort out.
Right.
But you're good. Thank you. Are we ready for the next one, gang?
Yes.
In the event of encountering turbulent weather, you are advised to remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
Remain fastened to the seat in turbulent weather.
Remain fastened to the seat. Well, that certainly cuts words. But I think we have two different, there's the business of staying seated and there's the business of no. We're very enthusiastic about cutting words down.
Can we use like how Prashanta said, announcement or warning?
Warning, yes.
And what does it say? In turbulent weather, remain seated with belt fastened.
In turbulent weather,
Remain seated with seatbelt fastened.
remain seated with seatbelt fastened. Yeah, that's, again, headline language, leaving out your. If we added your as an extra word, but it's good.
I did the same, but with the your.
Austin.
Yes. During turbulence, you should remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
During turbulence, remain seated with the seatbelt fastened. Two hands. Okay, go ahead. Yeah, we haven't heard from you.
You are advised to fasten the seatbelt because of turbulent weather.
You are advised to fasten your seatbelt because of turbulent weather. Well, that assumes that the weather is turbulent now, right? And did we stay seated or we just fastened the seatbelt?
Yeah.
Fasten the seatbelt. Fasten the seatbelt. Fasten the seatbelt.
Fasten the seat.
It's fastened. I mean, one could argue that if my seatbelt was fastened, I'm probably sitting there. An editor might think that way. Yes.
I've done the same. In turbulent weather, remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
In turbulent weather, remain seated with your seatbelt fastened.
I was going to put please, but that's not English.
We've got a good idea here.
Yeah.
If I were doing this, I might say, if the weather gets rough, stay seated and fasten your seatbelt.
I have a question. Is it okay to move away from advising to kind of now instructing?
To kind of,
From advising to instructing?
yeah, I instructed, if the weather gets rough, you know, in the event that you are advised to, that's all bureaucratic, you are advised to, you know, we regret to inform you, it is hereby, it has been decided by the management that, dump all that verbiage. We're moving on, unless that's a question. If it's another solution, we're moving on. There are lots of solutions in this soup. This is a real-world example. At the time of reservation, may we request you to kindly indicate your choice of meal to enable us to make the necessary arrangements, as it will facilitate us to provide you with a meal of your choice on board, since it will not be possible to entertain meal requests at the time of check-in due to paucity of time.
60.
Yes.
Due to time constraints, we cannot arrange meal requests at check-in, so please indicate your meal choice while making a reservation.
Okay, that's much shorter.
That's good.
Very good, thank you. So I have some others. Okay, Austin.
Please request your meal choice at the time of reservation, as you will be unable to at check-in.
Good, how many words?
20.
20 for 60. We saved 2/3. Yes.
We request to indicate the choice of meal at the time of reservation.
We regret.
We request to indicate the choice of meal at the time of reservation.
Okay, good.
10 words.
10 words. Okay, all good. I would do something like this, I think. When you make your reservation, please choose your meal. Maybe I might add, check-in time will be too late.
I think that's important because some people don't get it.
I don't know how many words that is, I didn't count them. But I think that gets down to that boils it down to the point. When you make your reservation, please choose your meal. Check-in time will be too late.
Along the lines of simple language, I don't think paucity people would.
Oh, paucity is okay, it's in the interest of pomposity, the paucity of so on.
But is it needed to mention the check-in time? Because if we say just request to indicate
no, it's not necessary. You
the
can say
time of
this.
reservation.
Please do it at this time. But as my statistical analysis shows me that even after I've published that, 25% of my customers still try to choose a check-in. So I may have to tell them listen, check-in times back and forth. Can't help you that. Don't wait till check-in. I eventually came on the scene, and after I observed the situation for some time and saw what was actually going on, I finally took action in a decisive way that enabled me to conquer the place. Okay.
After observing the situation, I took a decision which enabled me to conquer the place.
After observing the situation, I took a decision that enabled me to conquer the place. Good. Yes.
Yeah, after observing the situation,
After observing the situation,
I conquered the place by taking a decisive action.
I conquered the place by taking decisive action. Good. How many words? 12. Yes.
I personally observed, acted decisively, and conquered.
Good. I personally observed,
Acted decisively,
and
conquered.
How many words?
7.
7. Wow.
I came, I saw, I conquered.
But you missed the decisive action.
That's it. No, we didn't miss anything. This is my bastardization of what Julius Caesar said. I saw, I conquered. And he said it in Latin, half the number of words. We need 3 words. Became There's a book called The King's English, which is a rather old book, but excellent, nonetheless, by Fowler Brothers. It'll be in the list. Anyone who wishes to become a good writer should endeavor, before he allows himself to be tempted by the more showy qualities, to be direct, simple, brief, vigorous, and lucid. Direct, simple. There's a book called Writing, a book on writing called Simple and Direct. To be direct, simple, brief, vigorous, and lucid, which means clear.
Clear.
This general principle may be translated into practical rules in the domain of vocabulary as follows. Now they're going to follow. Prefer the familiar word to the far-fetched. Prefer the concrete word to the abstract. Prefer the single word to the circumlocution. Prefer the short word to the long. Prefer the Saxon word to the Romance. These rules are given roughly in order of merit. The last is also the least. It is true that it is often given alone as a sort of compendium of all the others. In some sense it is that. The writer whose percentage of Saxon words is high will generally be found to have fewer words that are out of the way, long, or abstract, and fewer paraphrases than another, and conversely. I'll explain what these mean. Prefer the familiar word to the far-fetched. If a person can't make up his mind, are you sure you want to say that he has ambi-tendencies? You're all familiar with ambi-tendencies, right? Then it might be better to say that he can't make up his mind. Familiar word to the far-fetched. Prefer the concrete word to the abstract. We have some examples, I think. In proportion as the manners, customs, and amusements of a nation are cruel and barbarous, the regulations of its penal code will be severe. In proportion as the manners, customs, and amusements of a nation are cruel and barbarous, the regulations of its penal code will be severe. Anyone have a problem understanding that? It's clear, right? It's clear. Yeah. Grammatical, right? Makes sense, right? We know what he's saying. In proportion as men delight in battles, bullfights, and combats of gladiators, will they punish by hanging, burning, and the rack.
That's much more.
Would you say that has more impact? And it's all by being concrete. Manners, customs, and amusements become battles, bullfights, and combats of gladiators. Picture words. There's no picture to manners or customs or amusements. Whereas battles, bullfights, and gladiator combats call up vivid pictures. And we think in pictures. We think in specifics. The regulations of its penal code will be severe. Hanging, burning, and the rack. You know exactly what I mean now. And you might even remember it. In proportion as men delight in battles, bullfights. So this is an important principle of writing. Abstractions upon abstractions upon abstractions. It goes rifting off into the air. They have a hard time piercing the skull. Specifics tell. Specifics have power.
I was just thinking now how, like Bhagavatam or Sanskrit literature in general can be always very vivid also in these description. Sanskrit literature in modern times would be very vivid.
Yes, Sanskrit literature can be very vivid, very particular. Any language can be very vivid and very particular. You can also be abstract and, you know, the quality of this and the quality of that, but when you're specific, it goes through. Even something like a great many people crowded into the temple. How's that compared to like 350?
It's not more specific, it gives you a much better picture, like you said.
Yeah, if I say
It's
350.
more specific.
Or if I say, you know, beyond that, if I say 350 Rajasthanis crowded into the temple. 350 Rajasthani villagers crowded into the temple. How's that compared to a large number of people? You see them now, brightly dressed because they're Rajasthani, the villagers, so they're going.
So now using any adjectives on Rajasthan system.
Rajasthan, only one.
Is there some mistake in the second sentence? Will they punish? What this means?
Will they
punish?
Well, it's a little bit literary. It's they will.
They will. Will they punish?
Let's see. Give me a second.
Will be punished.
The more that you bother me, the more will I oppose your proposal. The more that you pester me, the more will I oppose your motion. It's an alternative way of saying something. You can certainly say they will punish, but it's equally acceptable here, although a little, perhaps we might feel arty, because after all, this is in writing, it's literary. He's being a little more literary, but it's permissible. If a short word will do, prefer it. If you're not getting extra mileage from your longer word, extra precision, extra power, all other things being equal, go short. Short words can be powerful. I'll give you a couple of examples. I think I will. Talking about the power of short words. This is the Bible again. I'm not trying to move anyone over to a different page. And the king was much moved, and went up to the chamber over the gate, and wept. And as he went, thus he said, "O my son, Absalom, my son, Absalom, would God I had died for thee. O Absalom, my son, my son." It's 46 words. One of them has 2 syllables. Apart from Absalom. Is it powerful? Does it need big words?
No.
Point to be made. I'll give you another example. This is from T.E. Lawrence, Key of Arabian Fame. Riding between 2 or 3 of these built-up islands, we made for the far bank of the valley. On our way was the main bed of the winter floods, a sweep of white shingle and boulders, quite flat. Down its middle, from Palm Grove on the one side to Palm Grove on the other, lay a reach of clear water, perhaps 200 yards long and 12 feet wide, sand-bottomed, and bordered on each brink by a 10-foot lawn of thick grass and flowers. On it We halted a moment to let our camels put their heads down and drink their fill. And the relief of the grass to our eyes after the day-long hard glitter of the pebbles was so sudden that involuntarily I glanced up to see if a cloud had not covered the face of the sun. Do you see the scene? It's all pictures. All concrete words, and as for length, 145 words, 24 of them have 2 syllables. 1, 6 syllables. Short words have power. I might also, at this juncture, put out a word about shuns, such as resolutions, ambitions, considerations. Give me some more shuns.
Admissions.
Hmm?
Admissions.
Position. Condition. Speculation. Commotions.
Appreciation.
Appreciation. Situation.
Diminution.
Imagination. On they go. Shuns and shuns and shuns. The general advice is shun the shuns. There are signs that you might do better with a shorter word. A situation might be a place. A location might be a place. For example. A speculation might be a thought. A regulation might be a rule. Okay? Now that's not to say that we forbid the use of words that end in shun, but you start to see these sentences which have to do with consideration of regulations for the administration of the location of the, and it's like, yes, okay, and prefer the Saxon word to the Romance. Romance, you know what a Romance language is?
Something that comes from Latin.
Something that comes from Latin, as in Latin, Spanish, French, Italian, Portuguese. These are all Romance languages, and especially Latin itself. The English language is actually a Germanic language. Your Saxon languages are the short, punchy words. Not to say that short, punchy words don't come from aren't imported into English from other languages also. But the native punch of the language comes largely from Saxon. Display. Saxon or Romance?
Romance.
Romance. When you start to see these prefixes and suffixes, debilitation, and you know you're in Romance territory. Fortitude.
Romance.
Romance. Prevarication. Romance. What's a Saxon display? Show. Fortitude.
Strength.
Might.
Strength or guts. Prevarication. Prevarication. You know what prevarication is?
Is it lying?
Lying. Yeah, a prevarication is a lie. Lie. An untruth, a fib. You know, with prevarication it becomes once abstract and the Latin as pre, and the Latin as shun, and the very, so what is all this? It's a damn lie, that's what it is. So when the prose starts to flow with romance, it starts to flow into a swamp. Now in practice, a combination of the two can give you strong prose. Multitudinous seas incarnata. The two romance words with the Saxon coming in the middle can give strength there. But suffice it to say, prefer the Saxon word to the Romance. What you're looking for is clear, direct, lucid, straightforward words. Plain words. Franklin Delano Roosevelt, one of our better presidents of the United States, his speechwriter wrote for him, "We are endeavoring to construct a more inclusive society." Clear?
Yeah.
We are endeavoring to construct a more inclusive society. All clear? Just about all romance, endeavor, construct, society, inclusive. FDR changed that to,
Right.
we're going to make a country in which no one is left out. How much better is that?
A lot.
And today also.